Today, we will once again take a look at interesting footage that captures a moment: how munition on a Ukrainian FPV drones easily blow up Russian troops in battle. One close count of publicized strikes by explosives-laden first-person view drones reveals that Ukraine holds a steady 300 drone a month lead in confirmed FPV strikes. Since August, Ukrainian troops have flung at Russian troops least 8,273 FPVs, each of which weighs 2 pounds and hauls a pound of explosives as far as 2 miles. There likely are many more FPV strikes that go unreported, but in any event there evidently is an FPV gap, a gap that helps to explain how Ukrainian troops were able to halt the Russian winter offensive west of the ruins of Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine. The Russians glide-bombed the outnumbered and artillery-starved Ukrainian garrison in Avdiivka, the 110th Mechanized Brigade plus some attached units, and attacked with wave after wave of infantry, ultimately forcing the garrison to retreat to the west under the cover of 3 brigades: the 47th Mechanized, the 3rd Assault, and the 53rd Mechanized. The Ukrainians gave up the first line of villages a few miles west of Avdiivka and rebuilt their defensive line in the next line of villages: Berdichi, Orlivka, and Tonaniki. On favorable terrain with water at their backs, the 47th, 3rd, and 53rd Brigades turned and fought back with tanks, artillery, and mortars, most importantly with drones. Lots of them. The number of drones the Ukrainian armed forces have in the Avdiivka sector is off the charts, one Russian military blogger complained. The same blogger estimated that the Ukrainian brigades west of Avdiivka launch as many drones as the Russian field armies in the area. The 2nd and 41st Combined Arms Armies send soldiers into battle. If true, that could mean the Ukrainians are stockpiling thousands of FPV drones just in this sector, and the math supports this assertion. Partnering with a growing network of small civilian workshops, the Ukrainian military quickly ramped up FPV production last year. Today it's acquiring at least 50,000 FPVs a month at a cost of just a few $100s per drone, and Kyiv's goal is to deploy 1 million FPVs this year. Russian propagandists claim Russian industry is building even more drones. They toss out eye-watering figures: 100,000 or even 300,000 new FPVs a month. According to Ukrainian analysis group Frontelligence Insight, Russia's bigger drone industry poses a complex problem without a straightforward solution for Ukraine. But it's not clear that Russia's bigger industry is having the effect that matters: getting combat-ready drones to the front line when and where they're needed, and which is how the Ukrainians consistently fly more FPV sorties. Part of the problem is that many Russian drones are badly made and thus unreliable. One Russian military reporter pointed out that the best Russian FPVs, such as the Piranha and Ghoul models, are built by enthusiasts drawing on private funds. But drones that are paid for with government funds and built by military contractors are of poor quality, are vulnerable to Ukrainian radio jamming, and tend to turn over on approach, the reporter claimed. While the reporter blamed nepotism and lobby ISM for corrupting the big drone enterprises, it doesn't matter if Russia produces more drones than Ukraine does if the drones don't work. Unless and until the Kremlin reforms the government drone enterprises, and the Ukrainian armed forces may continue to deploy more good FPVs. While 2-pound FPVs ranging 2 miles can't fully replace 100-pound artillery shells ranging 15 miles, the drones are an effective stopgap when artillery stocks are low. And remember, Ukrainian artillery stocks have been very low ever since Russia-friendly Republicans in the U.S. Congress blocked further U.S. aid to Ukraine starting in October. However, Ukraine's artillery crisis is ending. The Czech Republic has brokered the purchase, by a mostly European consortium, 1 million shells for Ukraine, the first of which should be on the way. And it's always possible Republicans might relent and approve further U.S. funding, which could pay for another million shells. What's exciting for friends of a free Ukraine is that the artillery will be additive, and the Ukrainians ramped up production of FPV drones and gained an enduring FPV advantage over the Russians to mitigate a shell shortage. But even once the shell shortage ends, Ukrainian workshops still will be building tens of thousands of reliable FPV drones every month. That's how Ukraine's drone stopgap could become a drone surplus and a huge firepower advantage. In a separate statement on Sunday, the Kremlin said its forces had shot down 23 Vampire rockets in the past day and destroyed one Vampire MLRS combat vehicle close to the Belgorod border with Ukraine. Ukrainian forces have been using the Vampire MLRS since the early days of the war, and they are standard artillery systems that have been fired frequently in cross-border attacks, said Marina Myron, a postdoctoral researcher with the War Studies Department at King's College London. The systems the Vampire MLRS are used for concentrated bursts of fire, launching up to 40 rockets in under a minute. They are typically used to zero in on military equipment or troops, rather than hardened targets. The Vampire is built on the chassis of an 8x8 truck, allowing the system to quickly vacate the position it fired from before the enemy can locate it and return fire, Myron said. But Russia has reported consistent artillery fire into the Belgorod region that it ascribed to Ukrainian forces throughout the more than 2 years of war. Shelling has become a commonplace occurrence, and the region's governor, Vyacheslav Gladkov, said on Monday that 2 people had been killed in shelling across the border in the village of Nikolsko, south of the city of Belgorod. Ukraine may be making more use of the Vampire MLRS in recent weeks because of the scarcity of 155mm artillery ammunition, Myron suggested. The Vampire MLRS uses 122mm rockets. It could be assumed that Ukraine has more of the shells of 122mm caliber, which is why the heavy reliance on Vampire.